Just putting a toothpick there.
Now I got a couple of coats of thin CA on here. Let it kick off normally. And I'll put a final finish on this and try to get some more of the detailing on that yoke. Remember that little thing of sandpaper on a toothpick? This is just a perfect spot for it right now to do some of the final detailing. Usually you need 2 or 3 coats of thin CA sanded between coats. Simulate this the shape. And after bending all that wire and seeing what a pain that was, boy, this looks like the lesser of 2 evils ultimately. Leave it on that. That was a lot of carving and sanding. I want to get a couple coats of paint on this. That'll probably be all we're going to get done tonight, but that's about as close as simulation. Much closer to scale than a toothpick, say. Well, that's it for today. What I've been doing is storing all my little levers and things here. This took a lot longer than I thought it would. Everything on this plane is taking longer than I thought it would. Anyway, we'll pick this up tomorrow. Hey, today I'm looking at the little yoke. It dried up real nice. This is ready for doing the ink work. And what I want to do is I want to lay out all my little details that I've been making last couple of days. Just get a look at them. All these little throttles and everything, because I need to figure out exactly what I still want to do. Every time you start a new day, you almost have to hit the reset button a little bit, look at some of this and figure out exactly what part of this I want to work on. Let me go look at that dashboard and see what's next. This is what I bought this at a little craft store, and these are little, I don't know if we're going to see these up on a macro lens, little jewels. And what I use these jewels for, this is on the Spitfire, you can see right here and right here. They act like little lights. In fact, we have one up by the switches. So I think what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make up some switches. Look at some of the other cockpits, just to get ideas from these. This one has jewels in it too. Those little details. I guess I'll work on this first so the epoxy can be dry and figure out where I want to have the lights. I need to drill a little hole or leave a little impression and then just put a drop of epoxy in there to drop these in place. There's a lot of different ways to drill holes here, but this is one way that just seems to be a doable way, and I need to I don't want to make them any bigger than they have to be. See, I like the look of the glass reflecting, and because I get these are up high, these will sparkle when the light shines through them. Now, this really gets to be a lot harder than you think it is. So I want to get one tiny drop, just a little bit of epoxy down in that hole. Now what I want to do, I want to take a toothpick, just wet it just enough. Come on. I don't want to drop it in and then have to move it. I want to get it right on the first shot. If you can see, let's see if I can focus in on this. Because this is the only way I know of to get it. Yep. Sorry this is taking a minute, but this is one of the things that I know everybody just loves to see, those little jewels. Extra ones I'll save in that envelope with all the dials and gauges and things that I have extra of. Okay, I put this one to throttle kind of on off things. Now that could be a throttle, it could be a primer. In a real airplane, the primer usually looks something similar to that. But anyway, And when we're making a fantasy dashboard, we want to try to make it as realistic, but it doesn't have to be prototypical. One of the things I heard all kind of comments about was the switches. So I want to make them up. I'm going to make them up a similar way. I'll do real quick, go through it again for anybody that hasn't seen the Spitfire videos. These little switches add a real nice touch to any model. Start with a bunch of old T-pins. Doesn't even matter if they're nice new ones. They can be old and junky. And what I want to do is take them over to the anvil and flatten one end off. So it's like a little bit of a spoon. What I do, and it's really, well, just cut off any length of pin, it doesn't matter. Until you have, I want to still maintain the sharp edge so I can hold this with needle nose pliers. Just makes it a little bit easier. Let's get a focus on this. Next step is just try to file it as even as you can. Next step is just get an old block of balsa wood, and we don't need any particular kind. And I'm using a piece of that Teflon paper. And I need to get some real tiny washers. Now you really have to position a switch at this point in time where you'd like it to be, either down, neutral, or up. And of course I try to leave a little, just the right amount, get it straightened out. And I'll line up the whole slew of them here. You can see this up close what that looks like. Okay, now I need to mix up a little epoxy, put some black dye in it, and put a coating of black epoxy on these guys. And just one drop of dye in here, and that should give us what we want. Now I put this epoxy on with a toothpick. And again, what I'm looking for is it leaves a nice, if you luck out, I guess, it leaves a nice shiny, the kind of look that a real switch would have. Similar to a real switch anyway. And the idea of the Teflon paper is just in case a little doesn't get by. I want to get some on there, but I don't want to have a big glob. And it's always a good idea to, if you make 10 of these or 12 or whatever, and then make a few extra. And while you're all set up and fool around with this stuff, then the next time you need them, you'll either have them or you'll remember to do them. Now usually when these dry up, and if you want to speed up the drying, you can always just hit them with a hairdryer, of course. Put them by a heating vent. Tricks is just while it's last few minutes while the glue is still thin, hang it upside down so it tends to drip toward the end, and it gives that the look of a real switch when it dries. Just going to hold this here for a couple of minutes. Now I'm just putting just wanted to show when it's all dried up and I've pressed them in. Of course you can make some of the switches up, some down if you want to be cute. Just one extra drop of epoxy with dye in it. And it really does make the switch look like, well, what a World War II switch looks like. Now a good idea, little tip, is when you press these in, don't press them in with the little black edges. Grab it with a needle nose pliers just in front of the washer and press it in. And then what I did is I put a few drops of CA on the back, thin CA, just